Everybody Hates Rand is a Wheel of Time podcast that will contain spoilers for all 14 books. So if you're anti-spoiler, stop this, read all 14 books, and come back. We'll be here, waiting.
Our title is a joke and is meant to be taken as such. Everybody in this context refers to us and our cats. You are free to feel however you want about Rand. He's a fictional character. Please don't DM us.
The world is a mess, Dark One stretching out his hand. The dragon's reborn, the fire's been fanned, but everybody hates Rand. Everybody hates Rand. Everybody hates Rand.
Okay, let's start the Ding Dang podcast.
Hi, this is Everybody Hates Rand. It's your friendly neighborhood Wheel of Time podcast. Well,
Just the New York Times headline is so dramatic.
I'm Emily Jushaw,
And I'm Sally Goodger.
and it's Crossroads of Twilight, bitch. It's Brittany.
It's Brittany, bitch!
I actually shouldn't put Brittany and Crossroads of Twilight within the same comparison. It's unfair to Brittany.
It is unfair to Brittany.
So here we are with the second half of the world's longest prologue. That's a lie. It's only the longest prologue until we get to probably Knife of Dreams.
The other Knife of Dreams prologue is equally as long, if not longer.
At the very least, A Memory of Light is like 300 pages, so...
What the? Why even call it a prologue?
I mean, I don't really know how long it is. It's just
No,
very
I believe that. I believe it. I'm
It's
staring at
so
A Memory
long.
of Light right now.
with hatred.
With, fury. It's
If
right
I had
next
laser
to
eyes. Yeah.
Dune and whatever comes before it, Towers of Midnight.
Yeah, Towers of Midnight between two. Not great books.
This is much less exciting half of the prologue than the first 4 points of view, I feel like.
Because it doesn't have Ichiro.
I mean, that's true. It does have Davron Bashir, which is pretty exciting.
It does have Davron Bashir, yeah. And the sexual tension between Davron Bashir and Bale, the Ale. Which
Bale
I'll
the
never-
Ale.
I'll never stop finding
I just
amusing.
feel like Davron Bashir has sexual tension with everyone. With, like, his
He does.
lieutenant
Yeah.
that he's talking to in this point of view.
Everyone who meets Davron Bashir is like, I want to fuck him. And he's like, sounds great.
Intriguing.
Yeah, it is kind of boring because there's assassination attempts, but they're happening to people who aren't the point of view narrators.
Yeah.
Which is like, I mean, I theoretically understand why, like, Dobrain isn't telling us about his assassination attempt because he's just unconscious for half of it. But, you know, it just leaves a little bit to be desired, as does this entire prologue. I have no idea what's going on with Gawyn. I never do.
I will say that Gawyn is in a town that's only claim to fame is sending cheese to the White Tower.
Which is so fabulous. They're just like, we are the cheese patrons of the White Tower.
Or
Hear
maybe,
us
like,
roar.
all of Tarvalon, I don't know, but I was like, what a whack-ass piece of world building for Robert Jordan to just
I know.
spring upon us.
Do you think his, like, world building Word document, he was just, like, scrolling to the end of it and was like, a town that just sends cheese to the White Tower. Sure, I might as well throw that one in there.
Yeah.
In a Gawyn point of view, which people will be skipping anyway, so they won't necessarily see and notice how whack that is.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's quite whimsical. I like to think of all these cheese folks making their fancy cheeses.
Do they have, like, caves, do you think? Because some cheese gets made in caves.
Oh my gosh.
I know so little about the cheese-making process, but I do know that some of it is made in caves.
Yeah, I feel like my dad or my stepmom was telling me that they just read a
they
book
were.
all about the history of
they were.
cheese. Yeah, I was like, this makes a lot of sense for you too, but I'm seeing them this weekend. I'll mine them for some more information about cheese, and we can expand upon this town.
Yeah, that's your homework assignment, is to find out
More about cheese.
what
I
a
bet they have
cheese-making town would look like.
some lovely cows.
Maybe it's just inhabited by mice.
Cute. It's like Cinderella. The mice make all the cheese.
We don't see any villagers. We only see Gawyn and some Aes Sedai, and Gawyn's lieutenant dude, Rajar.
Yeah, so I'm choosing to believe the town is populated by mice, who make all the cheese. And the mice are unionizing.
Imagine unionizing against Aleda. I mean, it needs to
It
happen.
needs to happen.
It needs to take her down.
It's very akin to the Amazon workers who unionized while Elon Musk was in space. No. Bezos was in space. Whichever one.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know. Whichever one unionized while someone was in
Amazon.
space. Yeah, I think it was Amazon. So they unionized against Bezos. It's like that. That's the equivalent of. But it wasn't Bezos in space. It doesn't matter. Unionizing against Aleda is what matters.
Gawyn starts every point of view by being the most dramatic ass bitch that has ever existed.
That's true.
He's like, his sleep was always fretful, troubled by dark dreams, haunted by the woman he loved. Which could be literal if Egg is just like hanging out in his dreams.
Hi, it's
But
me.
Egg usually is like, I will avoid Gawyn's dreams so I don't get sucked into his sexual mind palace where he just ravishes me nonstop.
Decapitates people.
And also decapitates Rand nonstop, which, ladies, red flag.
Yeah.
That's a deal breaker. Anyway, he's just like, I'm just so worried about Egg and Elaine, but I won't do anything to actually do anything.
Just gonna sit here and languish in Cheese Town.
Here I am in Cheese Town, and I can't do anything about it, and nothing can be done, and I'm the most miserable man that's ever existed. And I'm like, shut up.
No one suffered more than Gawyn. This
That's
is what I
true.
say about Tybalt every time Tybalt has a crisis.
Yeah, no one has ever suffered more than you.
And that's very much the energy Gawyn gives off of a pampered house cat who's like, ugh, the pillows are in the wrong spot today.
Oh no! Oh no!
So, I hate him.
Yeah, it's hard to feel sympathetic with Gawyn when literally all of his woes are of his own making.
Yeah.
Maybe not like being at the White Tower. Morgoth sent him there. He didn't necessarily have a choice in that. But then it was like who he sided with in the White Tower schism and blah, 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 blah. And also like, you're a privileged, rich boy. He also tells us explicitly that he didn't have to go back to the White Tower. He could have gone back to Andor. Like, you've had multiple opportunities to peace off and make different choices if you would like to. But instead, he's just like, I'm Gawyn, and I don't make decisions, and if I do, they're bad ones.
Yeah, and it's really hard to figure out, like, why. Like, I'm sure it has something to do with, like, honor and the oaths that he took and whatever. I'm gonna go back to the White Tower for reasons that just don't make a lot of sense to me. Because it's like, yeah, even if you... I mean, this is coming from me, someone who doesn't believe in oaths of fealty or whatever. But if, like, your promise was to Aleda, who obviously is very horrific and tried to kill you at Dumai's Wells, or have you killed, leave. Just leave.
You can just leave.
You can just leave.
And it's like, is he feeling guilty because he was the one who let Swan go?
Yeah.
Is this just all trying to make up for that? Also, if it comes back to honor and oaths, your very first oath of honor was to, like, be the sword prince.
Yeah, sword prince.
The sword man of Andor, like Elaine's right-hand dude. But you're not doing that, despite the fact that you're pretty well assured that Elaine is probably on her way to Andor, if not there already.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. Gawyn, of all of our characters in The Wheel of Time, seems to be the most behind the times at any given moment. You know, he's reacting to things that were resolved or became irrelevant literal books ago.
Yeah.
You know? And that's those things are especially like obvious to the readers, but even to like other characters.
Yeah.
You know? It's like if he met most other characters, they'd be like, oh, you still think Rand killed Morgoth?
Yeah.
Why would you think that, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
And we're not really, because we don't spend much time with Gawyn, and this is not me asking for more time with Gawyn, let me
please.
clarify. I don't like him. I don't want to be with him. But it's like, we're never really sure how much of that, again, is of his own making and how much of it that is just, like, willful ignorance, you know? And how much of that is the fact that he is in this weird, like, backwater position, just stationed with a bunch of guys who are outside of the Siege of Tarvalon, but sort of still expected to be loyal to the White Tower, even though the White Tower sent them away to get killed. Mm-hmm. Like, what's going on there?
Yeah, it is very just confusing, and it's also really frustrating, and I believe we've made this point before, so I'm sorry to belabor it, but, like, Gawyn reacting to things that happened books ago, like, logistically makes sense, like, technically makes sense, like, if news is traveling very slowly, we're jumping timelines, but, like, I am not interested in Gawyn learning for the first time that his sister is with the rebel Aes Sedai in book 10, when that happened.
Book 5.
Book 5. Like, that is not interesting to me. Mm-mm. Like, Gawyn should have heard that, and Gawyn should have reacted to that off-screen books ago, and by book 10, he should be in a different position than being like, I finally know where my sister is.
Yeah.
Or I finally know where my sister is aligned, or something. Like, it's just, like, so tedious. Yeah. I really hate it. Like, I don't know what Robert Jordan was going for there, but it's some sort of verisimilitude, I guess. But you're also writing a high fantasy series. You don't have to be loyal to how the pigeons fly.
Well, it's frustrating about Gawyn, besides everything about him, is that he is so, he's sort of like the walking embodiment of missed opportunities. He's usually in positions that could be interesting.
Yeah.
He tells us that he's the only one of the younglings who does not actually feel loyal to Aleida and doesn't think that, like, they should be going back to the White Tower, and all of the other ones are just so, like, brainwashed into wanting to be warders that...
Right.
They're gonna go back anyway. And it's like, if you actually cared... or were willing to, like, take action or do things, then this could be a very interesting story about you sort of, like, liberating the rest of these young men.
Yeah, do some deprogramming.
Yeah, but instead you're just, like, so apathetic about everything, and yet still have such a misplaced sense of your own importance in the scheme of things. You know, Gawyn is our character with protagonist syndrome. He thinks he's the protagonist of the story.
Yes.
And he very much is not.
Correct.
Which, at the very least, is emphasized pretty hilariously with his death, where he's like, I'll be the one to kill Demandred, and then he immediately gets killed.
What an idiot.
I know.
I, Gay Wintercrand, will take on one of the Forsaken.
I'm in charge.
I am powerful enough to take on one of the Forsaken. I can't channel. I'm not all that great at using a sword. Makathon beat my ass with a stick.
Makathon beat my ass with a stick. How would you ever recover from that?
Yeah, like, if nothing else, that should have humbled Gawyn and sent him on to just be, like, a blissful little himbo.
Yeah.
But instead, he's like, no, I am the most important person in the world.
Remember when Gawyn was, like, likable and cheerful? Yeah. All the way up until, like, about book 4, the White Tower Schism. Uh-huh. And then suddenly, Robert Jordan was like, I'm going to give Gawyn a ton of self-inflicted PTSD, but you're not going to be with him when it happens. You're not going to be in his head in the immediate aftermath of it happening, so for the rest of time, it will absolutely haunt you that Gawyn suddenly became a different person.
Yeah.
With no on-screen explanation for that.
Yeah. It just becomes more and more annoying to me that he didn't just go with Swan and Leanne and Min. Just, like, leave. Again, just leave.
Just leave. Yeah, there were a lot of ways Gawyn's arc could have gone differently, but it's just character oversaturation. Robert Jordan had too many characters at this point, and he only had, like, 3 things he ever wanted Gawyn to do.
Yeah, it's also in terms of, like, character saturation, and, like, perhaps some of this is, like, intentional on Robert Jordan's part, but, like, obviously Gawyn and Rand act as foils or mirrors of one another in many ways, and Gawyn's protagonist syndrome, Rand being the actual protagonist, like, they've got some similar things going on. But part of what, like, makes Gawyn so frustrating, well, again, among many other things, is, like, he's just doing what Rand did, like, 4 books ago. Languishing over what decisions to make, what is his role, what type of leader does he need to be, where is Elaine, where are all these women that he cares about, not making decisions. Like, it's a very similar character arc, and it's like, I didn't like it the first time around. Why would I want to do it again?
Yeah, and I didn't even like it when we were having the much more palatable rags to riches storyline that Rand was getting. You know, we're programmed to like that.
Yeah.
Hello?
Honk, honk, honk.
Honk, honk. And I don't like it I don't like Gawain's fall from grace any more than that. He's being humbled by the narrative, but in his own psyche, he is not being humbled one iota, so, like...
Yeah, that's a good point. Like, he's not following his own character arc. Like, he is stuck. He's got, like, heels.
He might be the most poorly written character in this entire series.
It's so true.
We get so much mixed messaging about him. Is his protagonist syndrome intentional? Like, is Robert Jordan trying to make a point about masculine privilege? I highly doubt it because of literally everything else in the Wheel of Time series. I don't believe Robert Jordan is that astute about masculinity and toxic masculinity. But, like, there's a possible reading there that it was intentional. Or is... I don't know. Is he just sort of popping up whenever Robert Jordan needed him to do something? And he had to make him depressed as fuck in order to justify the fact that he's not doing anything any other time.
I know, you make such a good point. Like, Rand's rags to riches, so to speak, thing is part of what makes him so insufferable. Like, he was once this, like, lovely...
man of the people.
Charming little farm boy who's like, I don't want anything to do with this. And now he's like, I will conquer all of the known world and make deals with fascists. Gawyn is this insufferable, pretty boy prince. And if he actually followed his character arc to, like, reverse that and become, like, the type of person who gives a shit and is, like, again, humbled, like, it would have been really interesting to watch those two things happen. Kind of revolving door of what roles they are taking. Instead, again, he's just languishing in Cheese Town.
Yeah, Gawyn's story is ultimately a story of failure. Mm-hmm. And, like, I don't... I just don't... I feel like that can be interesting to read in, like, Shakespearean tragedy. But it's hard to feel anything for Gawyn.
Yeah, like, I'm sorry I always make this Hamlet comparison, but it's just, like, really writes itself of these two, like, sad boys who cannot make a decision. Mm-hmm. And it's, like, a part of why it doesn't work for me is, like, Shakespeare already did it, first of all. But, like...
And he did it well.
He did it well, and it's another, like, again, I know Hamlet is, like, 5 hours when performed start to finish, but that's still much shorter than the Wheel of Time.
Imagine performing the Wheel of Time on a stage.
Yeah. So it just, there's just something about it that doesn't work. Gawyn as a character doesn't work. Aside from his, like, truly insufferable personality, like, nothing about his arc works because his decisions don't make sense. He doesn't make any sense. I also feel like everything we really needed Gawyn to do, Galad could have done.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. Elaine only ever needed... I mean, Elaine is sort of an unnecessary character, too, but she really only ever needed one brother.
Yeah.
Well, fuck Gawyn, am I right?
Yes, you are.
Yeah, the crowd cheers.
Yeah, wow!
Everyone loves to hate Gawyn.
Everybody hates Gawyn. Welcome to our new podcast.
I can't say his name that often, you know?
Gawyn.
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 Garwin.
That's how it's actually pronounced. The actual thing that's happening with Gawyn while they're in Cheesetown, Cheeseville, he and all of the other younglings who escaped Dumai's Wells, and at, like, right around when they got back, winter restarted, and also the White Tower is suddenly under siege. So even if they were welcome back in Tarvalon, which they're not, patently, they couldn't get back into Tarvalon. They're snowed in, and also there's no way in.
Sieged out.
They're accompanied by, like, a few of the Aes Sedai who are at Dumai's Wells, also. But this picks up with Gawyn waking up from his night terrors about Egg being helpless and vulnerable without him. And he is, like, leaving when his lieutenant, Rajar, comes to get him and is like, an Aes Sedai just arrived in the camp from the White Tower. Which is rare, obviously, because, you know, no one's getting into Tarvalon. People are also not getting out of Tarvalon, so someone slipped the siege lines. Gawyn goes to find out what's going on. They go to, like, this house where the top two Aes Sedai are staying, and confusingly enough, these are two Aes Sedai who were not with Dumai's Wells. They are Tarna, Fair or Fear, who we last saw in Book 6, haunting Salidar, where the rebel Aes Sedai were, which, on the one hand, is sort of an interesting commentary on, you know, how quickly traveling manages to overtake normal travel. But that also doesn't make a ton of sense because Tarna left Salidar in book 6, and the Aes Sedai didn't travel until book 9, so like there were months between that. It doesn't make a lot of sense that she was just
there
suddenly. I don't know. And the other lady is Katarine, and I don't remember what she's been doing, but she is sort of like, I'm not with the Aes Sedai. And there's some random Aes Sedai who's like, yeah, I had to go on this weird boat and down to like a tiny fishing village to get here, but I'm here and blah, 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 blah. And I don't even know, oh, she has orders for Gawyn from Eleda. And Gawyn's like, why would I even fuck with Eleda, you know? She tried to get us killed. And there's no good explanation for that.
No, just leave.
Yeah. Gawyn's just like, well, okay.
No, not okay.
Anyway, Katarine and Tarna are like, well, we want to get into Tarvalon, so they're gonna go back the way that this lady came, even though it will be painful or whatever, hard. And I believe we'll see Tarna again in this book, later in this book. I don't know about Katarine. I'm pretty sure Katarine is Black Aja. I can't remember.
Like 75% of the White Tower is Black Aja, so that's...
seriously, most of the named Aes Sedai at this point are Black Ajas. It's just everyone.
So it's a good assumption.
I'm pretty sure she's Black Aja, so I don't know what she's doing. If she wants to talk to Alviren or something. I don't know. Whatever. I cannot keep track of their machinations. But this is when Gawyn finds out that Elaine is with the Salidar rebels because Tarna says so, and Gawyn's like, you could have told me that like weeks ago when you first got here. And she's like, well, I didn't think of it. Whatever. She's like, whatever, you don't have to worry about Elaine because, you know, even if she joined with the rebel Aes Sedai, she's not going to get in trouble because she's only an accepted. Or she might get in trouble, but they're not going to like murder her or steal her or something like that. Which I guess just is all the... Again, Gawyn is this guy who just takes everyone at their word.
He's like, that sounds right.
A random peddler who assures him that the Dragon Reborn killed his mother.
Yeah.
Yep, that must be the truth.
Sure. Why would he lie to me?
Sedai being like, yeah, you don't need to worry about Elaine. Elaine doesn't need your help. She's fine. Gawyn's like, okay, I guess that's true. You could tell Gawyn anything and he'd believe it. He's probably a flat earther. Gawyn's like, the moon landing was fake.
God, he would be a flat earther. Deep QAnon type
motherfucker. Man, you're so right. Is that why he'd just be scrolling on his Facebook feed?
Yeah, like, really into Reddit.
Wayfair is trafficking children.
Inside couches and stuff.
Stupid.
He really is just, like, the most gullible. Like, he probably falls for scams all the time. Everyone has his credit card number.
That's why he's so poverty-stricken in Cheesetown.
He's gonna have to...
Sounds like a musical. Poverty-stricken in Cheesetown.
All the rats have to rally around and feed him. He gets a ratatouille rat to guide him to finally make better decisions.
You wouldn't even need a special ratatouille rat. A normal rat would make better decisions.
Normal rat. You don't need a Remy the Master Chef. You just like a regular Subway rat from New York City. would be like,
yeah.
Just don't work with Elena anymore.
Just don't.
It's a really easy choice.
Anyway, we leave Gawyn wallowing in despair and float over to Bashir, who is standing on a hill looking down on the armies that are besieging Camelin. So we're hopping from one siege to another. Bashir's with Bael. Not that that's super relevant, they just chat a little bit, but he is looking down at the camp, and his big takeaway is that it's super weird that Aramilla is the main claimant here, and that the two much more powerful house leaders, Neon and Elenia, whatever,
yeah, I don't know,
are supporting her rather than one of them being the backers, and will eventually bounce over to this camp and find out that, like, Aramilla basically kidnapped those two, and so they're hostages, and they really don't have a choice in the matter. Why it is that way, I have no idea. I don't know why.
I don't know why this entire thing has to happen. Like, this plot could have been just deleted.
Yeah, you really could have deleted the entire Succession arc.
Like, there's enough complications with, like, running a country in the middle of the impending apocalypse. Like, Caemlyn could have... It's not even... The siege isn't even interesting. Like, it doesn't add any major drama.
All Bashir witnesses is, like, a supply train trying to come to Andor or something like that. Like, some wagons, refugees or something, and they start to be attacked by the bad guys, but there are some riders come from inside Caemlyn to surround and rescue them, except then, like, the main guy that Bashir sees, like, slaps one of these people that he's just saved, so that's very clearly Hatchet Face, and I think that will arise later. And Bale's just like, well, this army sucks, and we could take them easy, so why don't we just do that? And Bashir's like, well, Elaine doesn't want us to, because then she would have gotten the throne via foreign power, which, you know, is not really something you want down here in these parts. And Bale's like, seems stupid. And Bashir's like, it is bestie, but what are you gonna do?
Too true, bestie.
That Europe be like that. It'd just be like that. And Bale's like, okay, well, whatever, peace out. Bashir's like, yep, see you later for our next lunch date, I assume. I don't know why they met up to do this inspection.
Just hanging. They're just
cute.
little friends. Got coffee.
Bashir goes back to his own camp, which is just where all of his remaining Saldeans are. They sort of have the looming threat of Tenobia and the entire Borderlanders armies, like, on their doorstep, and Bashir doesn't know what they want. He has to assume that partly they're after him. He's like, and really, Tenobia could arrest me for treason or whatever. It would be stupid of her to, but she could.
Tenobia is not known for being, like, very smart or compassionate.
Bashir describes her as a good ruler and says she's intelligent but not wise, and she's super impulsive and hot-headed. And I'm like, that doesn't sound like a good ruler.
That was his diplomacy statement.
Sounds like a teenage
She's
girl.
a good ruler, except
that she fucking sucks.
Yeah.
And typically, of course, Elaine has not, like, clued in Bashir to the fact that they're after the Dragon Reborn. They would, of course, Tenobia would love to get her hands on Bashir, so maybe stay out of her way, but he's not their main target. Anyway, Bashir gets back to camp and realizes that his own tent, where he and his wife stay, is, like, surrounded by people, and there's some sort of fuss, so he, very frightened and alarmed, runs in to see if his wife has been, like, killed or something. And his relief, she's wounded, like, she got a cut on her arm. And they have a pretty funny little back and forth. I don't know, they're a charming, weird little couple.
yeah, they're fine.
They're fine.
I think the whole Saldean relationship dynamic is intense, but when you take that out of it, they're just like a funny middle-aged couple who bickers and loves each other a lot.
Like, they bicker performatively, it seems like.
Yeah.
You know? Just to make everyone else be like, oh, yes, everything's fine.
Yeah.
With the Bashirs, keeping up with the Bashirs.
I would watch that, except then I'd have to look at Perrin and Fail, I guess.
It'd be the Kim and Kanye, or I guess the Kim and Pete Davidson.
Kim and...
Gross.
Oh, woof. Woof.
So, Dira, Bashir's wife, is like, yeah, there were these two guys who were in here looking for something, like, rummaging around, and I walked in on them and hit one of them with a chair and took a knife to the other one, but they managed to slip out after they stabbed me. But they won't have got very, they're easily identifiable because I hit one with a chair.
Freaking worldwide wrestling over here.
And Bashir's like, okay, fucking sexy of you.
Yeah,
Thank you so much.
You're the coolest.
And she's like, now leave while I get stitched up. And he's like, 10-4. Walks out, and his lieutenant comes in. I don't know why I keep saying lieutenant instead of lieutenant, like I'm British.
You can say whatever you want.
Whatever the hell.
I like lieutenant because it sounds like left. And that makes me think, oh, it's his left-hand man.
Oh, yeah, that's nice.
I don't know why it would be left hand, not right hand, but maybe he's left-handed.
Yeah, maybe.
We don't canonically get
we don't know
Bashir's dominant hand.
Yeah. He's met by this guy who's like, yeah, we immediately found those people, but they were already dead, and they, had been killed very quickly by someone else. And Bashir's like, oh, well, that's weird. So there are multiple people, in this conspiracy. And he's like, we don't know who it could be. We don't know if it's like the Forsaken or Dark Friends or something like that. Aes Sedai, who knows? But then he has this very mysterious statement where he's like, you know where to find the man who came to me yesterday? Find him and tell him I agree, but there will be a few more than we talked about. I think he's referring to Logain, but I could be wrong. I don't know, and I only know that with the benefit of foresight because I know Bashir and Logain show up together to talk to Rand later in this book. But I also don't know why it's so...
Why it has to be so mysterious.
Because at that point in the book, when they actually do show up, I will have forgotten that Bashir said this mysterious
thing. And I'll be like, Bashir?
Hello?
Papa?
Smash cut to Cairhien, where we're with an Aes Sedai named Semitsu. She's one of Cadsuan's insufferable Aes Sedai. She's the one who's good at healing. And she is in the middle of a power struggle with this other Aes Sedai named Sashal, who is one of the White Tower Aes Sedai at Dumai's Wells, specifically one of the ones who was stilled by Rand, but has since been healed by Demar Flynn and immediately swore fealty. That's sort of the overarching plot of this thing, is that Semitsu hates her fucking guts because she just wants to be in charge, even though she doesn't want to do anything while she's in charge. She just wants to do her job, like Cadsuan told her, of being in charge of Cairhien. And it's like, besties, Sashal is right most of the time, and also, who cares?
Yeah, like, we're 10 books in. The power struggles no longer interests me. Can we get along to the apocalypse, please?
Yeah, especially because it's not, like, relevant. Like, Robert Jordan really felt the need to add these little, like, spices of flavor to every single one of these one-off chapters, and mostly it's just bad flavor. It's just over-salted.
Yeah, and it's like, we don't need any flavor. Dobrain almost dies.
Loyal shows up. My beloved.
Loyal, my beloved.
Anyway, Semitsu and Sashal are arguing about, like, dumb Cairhien politics when someone comes in and is like, hey, there's an Ogier here with a man, and they claim to be looking for work as masons, but it's super weird. So Semitsu and Sashal go down to see them. To us, the reader, it's immediately obvious that this is Loyal. And it's pretty obvious to Semitsu, too, and they confront Loyal and also the Ashaman who's with him, whose name is Carlden, who's just a random guy. Kind of grumpy, but kind of normal. You have to wonder how he and Loyal got along over the last...
Yeah.
Because they've been gone for quite a while, since book 6, on some mysterious errand. And they try to leave before, like, Semitsu can call them out, but she's like, what are you doing? What do you want? And Carlden's like, well, just tell me if the Dragon Reborn's crazy, and what happened to the other Ashaman? Did they really get bonded as warders? What happened to, what's his name, Fedwin Moore? Everyone's saying the Dragon Reborn killed him?
They're right.
And they're like, oh, well, it was poison, but we don't know who did it. And, Carlden's like, yes, the poison wine. I'm familiar. It's like, Jesus Christ.
Yeah, what? There's so many fucked up things happening with these boys.
I know, which at least Semitsu is like, what's happening over in the Ashaman camp that Carlden is just like this?
Yeah. Well,
I don't know if you've noticed, but Mazrim Tem made it a cult, like, immediately.
Yeah. Like within seconds.
Yeah, like seconds. He was like, I will be your cult leader. And everyone was like,
Well, Rand's not helping,
Rand's
so
not
I
here,
guess
I guess that's my options.
And he just poisons people, and, well, Rand poisons people, too, so...
Yeah, but because Mazrim Tem told him to do it, so... Not that it matters.
Is Rand part of Mazrim Tem's cult?
He might be.
He's not doing anything to stop him.
Yeah, if you're not stopping the cult, you're part of the cult. I don't make the rules.
I don't make the rules. Cult logic,
John F.
baby.
Kennedy said that. If you're not...
Not ask what the cult can do for you, but what you can do for the cult.
Oh, God. While they're talking about the recent events in Cairhien, Carlden's like, oh, it's a big relief that Rand hasn't gone crazy, but no one knows where he is, so that's unhelpful. What are Loyal and I gonna do? someone runs in and is like, oh my god, Dobrain's been murdered. And everyone's like, murdered? Murder most foul in the palace of Kyrian. They rush off to check, because Samitsu's, big time healer. And they go into Dobrain's room where he's just like laying on the floor, super stabbed. Blood all on his face. There's a huge pool of blood all around him, nightmare
Horrifying.
fuel. They're literally about to cover up his face. And Samitsu here has her most important role in the entire series, I assume, which is saving Dobrain's life. She goes and heals him hilariously. She goes to heal him and she's like, oh, I'm worried that he won't survive this. So she says to Carlton, do you know how to do the healing that Dammer Flynn does? And Carlton is literally going through one of the dead guy's pockets. And he's like, no, why the fuck would I know that? And I'm like, is Carlton my new favorite character?
He might be. Carlton brings a lot of pizzazz that we've been lacking.
Joie de vivre.
Yeah. Not necessarily joie de vivre, but
Angst.
Angst de Vivre.
Angst de vivre. Anyway,
Angst de Vivre sounds like a pop star.
Samitsu manages to heal Dobrain without immediately killing him. Obviously, if this were a real medical show, he'd probably still die instantly, but we can assume that Dobrain will be okay, though with some scars to show for his assassination attempt. More significantly, Carlton found a letter that appears to be in Dobrain's own handwriting that's the bearers of this have permission to enter my apartments and look for some stuff. Don't stop them. So clearly these guys, just like with Bashir's tent, were looking for something. Mm-hmm. And Carlton says something to Loyal about it, and Loyal's like, well, what if there are more than two? So what I'm guessing they're talking about is the keys.
I thought it was the keys, too. The Totem Call keys.
Yeah, the access keys.
Yeah, I thought it was the access keys, but then I was looking at the wiki today, and the footnote there said it was the seals to the dark. They were looking for the seals to the Dark One's prison. I fully thought it was the Totem Call keys, too.
Jesus.
But I mean, I don't know. That's just what the wiki said. And I want to have faith in the wiki, but that didn't make a lot of sense to me.
No, that makes a vague sort of sense. But also the Dark One's prison seals have stopped being a plot 4 books ago.
Yeah.
So it's very confusing to bring them back now. But I do think it's sort of true that Rand dispensed the Dark One's seals to various people, which makes no sense to me, but when does Rand ever do anything that makes sense?
Yeah.
So, who knows? As usual, Wiki has to tell us
what
the fuck is going on.
Yeah, I would have fully thought it was the keys. I just happened to click on one of the footnotes, just look at something else, and I was like, the seals.
I guess the seals makes more sense because, no one really knows that Rand has the Choden Call access keys.
Yeah, and also, I think this prologue technically takes place before the end of Winter's Heart, because no one's responding to the big magic in the sky yet.
Yeah.
They'll start to do that, I think, in the first egg point of view.
They'll start to do that throughout this entire book.
Yeah.
This entire book is going to be reacting to.
Yes, which
excited.
is an interesting
A choice,
project, but
yeah.
it goes on
Way
for
too
a
long.
long time, and no one is making any decisions. They're just spooky, scary, spooky.
Guess we better not do anything about it.
So anyway, I guess this, technically takes place before that, but we don't know, how soon before. It's, one assumes, Rand has the keys, and he did not, secretly leave them with Dobrain.
Yeah, why would he even? He actually watches those. It's pretty funny that he's just like, here, Bashir, have one of the keys to the Dark One's prison. And it's like, bro? I mean, I trust Bashir with my life, but
Yeah, obviously, you would trust Bashir.
it's a piece of very breakable pottery.
Yeah.
Anything could happen.
And the man rides around on horses all day.
No.
Who knows what could
stands
happen.
on horses and does
Yeah, he does,
tricks,
flips and shit.
acrobatic shit.
He's just got one of those in his pockets. It could fall out, and then a horse could eat it. We
Yep.
never know what happened.
Who knows?
So
anyway,
Dobrain pulls through.
Dobrain pulls through. Bashir's wife was not murdered. Tragically, Gawyn's still alive. And that's where we stand at the end of the Crossroads of Twilight prologue.
Yep.
Well, who was your favorite character and least favorite character?
My favorite character was, I'm gonna say Bale the Ale, for being I don't understand this dumb reason. And I just find him very charming. He's a good side.
Mine was Carlton for doing the very Dungeons and Dragons thing of immediately looting a corpse.
Yeah.
While a guy was getting life-saving medical treatment right next
He's
to
like,
him.
that's not my business. I'm not a cleric.
Yeah, that was pretty funny.
And of course, Bashir. Honorable mention always.
Honorable mention, Bashir.
My least favorite character was Gawyn. Low-hanging fruit. I apologize. But it's my least favorite character all the time.
Mine was, Samitsu, because she was so fucking annoying.
Yeah.
I was like, could you go a single sentence without reminding us that you're in a power struggle that I don't care about?
No.
And that has no impact on the plot generally?
No, she can't.
Please, I'm begging you.
Shut it.
If Robert Jordan had simply cut out those parts of her point of view, it would have been about 10 pages
Shorter. Yeah, they'd been like, oh my god, Dobraina's murdered. And then they would have saved his life.
Loyal and Logan look too similar. I'm going to be mixing them up a lot.
Loyal Gain.
Loyal Gain and Carlton are back. Carlton.
I know.
What a name. It's just Carl with a din at the end.
It also just sounds like Carlton.
Yeah.
Which is a real name.
Yeah.
Robert Jordan was like, I like the name Carlton. He was watching Psych. Which came out way later than this book, but...
Okay. Thanks everyone for listening. Thanks to Glenna McKenzie for our theme song. Thanks to our patrons on Patreon and our followers on social media.
Yes.
Do you have anything to add?
No.
Cool. Do you have a sign-off?
Let me think for a second.
I was babysitting last weekend, and my nephews were in the bath, and one of them broke a glass outside of the bathtub. They're fine. Everyone was emotionally and physically undamaged. But I then had the super fun experience of trying to figure out a way to get possible broken glass shards out of a bathtub that was also filled with water beads.
Oh no,
These
Emily,
little, like,
no.
gel things.
Yes, I'm familiar.
Multicolored. And I didn't want those beads to go down the drain, and my nephews had both pissed in the water.
Oh, Emily, no. That's a horrible experience.
It's okay, I got to do some creative problem solving for a little while, but that's my sign-off.
That is, you are auntie of the year.
Salute.
10-4. Oh,
10-4,
Captain, my
good buddy.
captain.
Oh,
That's
Captain, my
Davin
captain.
Bashir.
They don't even know. Alright, everyone, have a good week.
Bye!